Now, people have asked me for years, and why don't you talk so much about heaven? And I really don't talk very much about heaven. I don't find it to be that interesting. And I know it's terrible. I'm supposed to say, I'm fascinated with heaven, but I'm really not. And I always think it's always kind of odd that so many Christians are just fascinated with heaven. And I think it's because they're really, really uninterested in life. And I find that what happens is that many people of faith use heaven as an escape hatch from the realities of life. And so you can endure this life as long as there's a heaven. In fact, I remember over 40 years ago when I first started encountering people who believed in Jesus. I'm sure I've met many people before that, but I didn't know they believed in Jesus since they never mentioned him. But now I had a bunch of people who felt obligated to talk to me about God and to try to convince me that he was real and that Jesus was his name. And it just seemed like they were everywhere. And yet one of the questions they would always ask me is, Erwin, if you died tonight, do you know for certain you'll go to heaven? You're a really dark person. It's like, why would you even bring that up? Like, you're going to mess up my sleep patterns. It's already hard enough for me to sleep. And if I died tonight, I was like, do you know something I don't know? It's like, and do you know if you died tonight, you'd be in heaven? And that's not my greatest fear. My greatest fear was not if I died that night when I go to heaven. My greatest fear is that I would not die that night, would wake up the next day and have to deal with life. It is far more terrifying to think about the fact I would have to wake up over and over and over and over and over and over again and have no idea what life was all about. That was far more terrifying to me than what happened to me when I died. I wondered what was going to happen to me before I died. And if I couldn't find a God who could help me before my death, why would I ever trust him with my life after my death? And Jesus says, you have a logistical problem. You keep thinking that the answer to your questions, the answer to your problems is a place. Whether it's a place called home or a place called heaven. And Jesus says, my entire goal is to get you to where I am. That would tell us so much about heaven. Maybe our goal isn't to get to heaven, but to get heaven to us. And then Jesus goes on. It's so frustrating when Jesus says things as if we're supposed to know. He goes on in verse 4, you know the way to the place where I am going. And that's why I'm so grateful for Thomas. Thomas asked the questions all of us are wondering, right? And Thomas said to Jesus, Lord, we don't know. We don't know where you are going. So how can we know the way? See, here's the dilemma. It's like we're lost on both ends, Jesus. We don't know where you're going, and so we don't know the way. So it would be really helpful for us who are slower in the back of the room if you could clarify all of it. And then Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. That statement has echoed throughout history. It's one of the few statements, if you knew nothing about anything Jesus ever said, that statement has probably found its way to you somehow. And Jesus is speaking to the very core of our human existence. It's this, he's taking apart our nostalgia, our mythology, this idea that there's a place called home. And so Jesus paints this picture of a home that God's creating for us. And he's taking this image of family and that all of us know should be this safe, beautiful, extraordinary, intimate community, but that we've all wondered where it's at. And now Jesus says, I want you to understand something. What you're searching for is not a place, it's a person. I am the way, and I am the truth, and I am the life. And here Jesus, over and over again, declares what God spoke to Moses, I am. It's the essence of me that you're searching for. And he speaks to the very core of everything. I am the way. And it's fascinating to me how 2,000 years later, we're still asking the same questions. So the reason we don't know the way is we don't have any purpose for our lives, or we don't understand what our purpose for existing is. And we're going, I don't know where I'm going. It's crazy how fast you can go someplace you don't even know. And you spend your life wandering. Have you ever had that terrifying thought, am I just wandering through life? Am I here on purpose, or am I here by accident? And it was the same thing at this business event a few months ago, where this one person asked the question in the Q&A, how do you not lose your purpose when you lose your business? How, when you lose everything, can you avoid from losing your purpose? And I said, well, the problem is that if your purpose is your business, it's vulnerable. As long as your purpose is something you can lose, it's fragile and in danger. Your purpose should not be something you do. It should be something you are. But if your purpose is who you're becoming, nobody but nothing can touch your purpose, because they can't touch that. And Jesus saying, I am your purpose.